Hi guys, welcome to part 12 of the Metasploit Mega Primer. In this video, we will look at how to install backdoors and also understand about rootkits in the post-exploitation phase. Right? So the first backdoor which we look at, which ships with Metasploit, is the persistence metapreter script. So what does this persistence metapreter script do? Well, to begin with, it goes ahead and installs a backdoor which will actually use a reverse connect to connect back to the attacker's machine. Let's look at a demonstration to understand this better. This is our setup which we've been using for the last couple of videos. The Windows Server 2003 Enterprise Edition. And we already have a metapreter session using which we've broken into the machine. Right, so in order to run persistence, let's first understand the different options. So a backdoor by definition has to be available always, right? Because of that, the backdoor should probably allow entry as soon as the system boots. So in persistence, you have an option of actually installing it and ensuring that it will try to connect back to you as soon as the system boots or when any user is actually logged in, right? So you can mention both or either of these conditions. Also at the very same time, persistence would try and connect back to the attacker every I interval number of seconds. So as you can imagine, an attacker may not be always be available. That is why what he would want is after every 15, 20 or 30 seconds, the backdoor should automatically try to connect to him. And of course, if it tries to connect to the attacker, it has to know the IP address of the attacker as well as the port on which the Metasploit is running on the attacker's machine, right? So let's have a sample of this script. Let's run persistence. We'll also automatically have a handler invoked on the attacker's machine by specifying the -a option. Let's go ahead, give this the -u option, and the interval, let's keep it to be 10 seconds. And what we'll do is the local port, let's keep it to be 30,000, and the IP address as, of course, the attacker's IP address, which is 1.10. Let's run the script. Awesome. So let's try and understand what is happening. We've created a persistent agent running on the remote system, which is going to try and connect back to 192.168.1.10, which is the attacker machine's IP address on the port 30,000 at an interval of 10 seconds, right? So what we will notice is that within 10 to 15 seconds, this would connect back to us. Now, the persistent agent script seems to be around 609 KB, I think 609 KB long. Also, this is where it has been uploaded. Now, if you notice, we automatically got a metapreter session. Well, the persistent script has connected to us now on port 30,000 and on our IP address, right? We'll have a look at that in a minute. Now, the agent is running remotely with a PID of 920, and the auto run has been installed in both of these registry locations, right? Now, if you want to do a cleanup, which is remove the script from the attacker's machine, from the victim, this is the command we need to run. So let's open this up in a new directory, in a new terminal, and we'll visit that in a minute as to exactly what does that script do. Right, so let's go ahead, copy the script location, and we'll just be back in a minute here. Let's now look at the victim machine to figure out what's exactly been happening. Right, so let's first figure out what is the process ID. go back here, do a quick PS, and you will notice the process ID with which we are running right now was 920, and the process ID here is that of WScript, right, which is actually running the VBS file. Now, one of the important things to understand is that when you use persistence, it is going to go ahead and create a file on the remote system, right? Let's view the file and understand what it is all about. See, one point which I'd like to mention is always remember to understand each and every tool right down to the last bit of what you're using, right? That is the only thing which will ensure that you can be very confident about your tools to begin with. At the very same time, you will also learn how to modify them if necessary, right? So this seems to be the script which has loaded. Let's go ahead, open it up in WordPad, and we'll notice a lot of interesting stuff which has been written here. Exactly what these are, what probably we'll visit later videos. But what I want you to understand at this point is, yes, a file has been created on the victim system, and this at times might trigger alerts if AVs or any of the host intrusion detection systems, etc. are present. This is important to understand, right? Now, what we will do is, let's background this session using which we broke in. Now, if we look at the available sessions, you would notice that the second one is what the persistent script has connected back to us. So let's connect to this session, and as expected, we are running here, right? So one of the important things basically to understand is that we are also administrator, which is what we ran it with, and we pretty much can do everything which we were doing with the remote thing. There's no difference at all, right? So now going back, one of the interesting things is, let's say we exit this Metasploit session, which is we just close the one. Now automatically persistent will connect back to us. So if a session has already been established, then of course it is unable to connect to the same port once again. So let's wait for a bit. Sorry about the dog barking in the background. Nothing I can do about it. A lot of stray dogs around, so can't help it. Let's wait for a bit. The handler is already running. Can figure that out by hitting jobs, right? And we should receive a connection any second now. Awesome. So if you notice, now we got a session back, right? And the interesting part is that this would continue pretty much indefinitely. So if you go back and go ahead and connect to this session, exit, sometime soon we should get another connection. Now, if you remember, we also went ahead and installed it to ensure that even when the machine reboots, it should connect back to us once again, right? Which you can verify after going ahead and rebooting the machine yourself. I'll probably skip that part because it might take a little bit of a time to actually have that whole thing going, rebooting, etc. Okay, so I think going back to our slides, the important thing to understand is the time can be set. Under the hood, it creates a VBS file and executes it and adds registry entries so that it can auto run the next time the computer restarts. Now, it can be uninstalled remotely, which we will see in a minute. Right? Okay, we got another session just going on and continuing. Well, if we look at this uninstall script, this is what it is. There's a particular process it says one has to kill. Now, one small bug here is currently I'm still running in the same context. So probably it will be very easy to do this because the process ID is still valid. But once you reboot the system, this would end up being a different process ID, because of which even though the second statement, which is cleaning up the registry, would work, however, you would have to manually kill the process because it would have a different PID, right? So let's go ahead and run the cleanup script. So this is basically run multi-console command -rc to give it the file, and we will run it. Awesome, right? So the interesting thing here is that the entry has been successfully deleted. There's no issue at all. If we do a quick PS, we might see some remnants here or there, simply because, as I said, the PID keeps changing, right? Okay, so now let's move on to our next backdoor script. Which is using Metsvc. Now Metsvc is basically a Metasploit backdoor which will install itself as a remote service on the victim computer. Now in this case, with Metsvc, in most cases the attacker connects to it remotely and no authentication is required, which is one of the drawbacks, which is anybody can connect to it. Right? It can be remotely uninstalled, but exactly like persistent, the files will need to be deleted manually. So even with persistent, I probably forgot to mention, the files, even though I have removed the entry, still remains in that folder, right? So this file which is there, well, we need to remotely remove it. I'm not sure why the script does not do it by itself. If you go here, you'll notice that the script still remains even though we've actually killed the process, right? Anyway, going back to the presentation, now when you have a bind shell, it is comparatively less noisy because the attacker can connect to it whenever he wants. There are no automatic reconnections being tried every 10, 15 or 20 seconds. Well, one of the easiest way to find Metsvc could be running a simple port scan and actually look at different ports and figure out by using some simple service fingerprinting on which port it is running, right? Now, one of the suggestions would be that instead of actually binding to a port permanently, one could actually use a network packet trigger to create a backdoor, which is probably the attacker can send a crafted packet and there would be a sniffer running in the background on the victim. Once it gets that whole signal in that packet, it can start the binding to a port. Anyway, let's look at a Metsvc demo. It's a very useful program, no doubt. Metsvc, the whole installation process is also using a Metasploit script, right? Now, just like previously, we'll go ahead and automatically start a matching handler. So the command itself is quite simple. That's it. It automatically goes ahead, uploads the DLL, the server, as well as the service, and it installs the service automatically. And if you notice, we are already getting a couple of connections, right? So this is the connection which has come from the Metsvc, number 5. Number 6 is actually running from the previous one, because as we saw, we could not kill because the process ID was incorrect. So if you remember, port 30,000 was what we had set for the perseverant script, right? Anyway, and this one, by default, Metsvc goes ahead and binds to this specific port, which is 31337. Right? Elite. So let's background this session. Go ahead and look at the available sessions. Now we have 3 available sessions. Number 5 is what is because of Met-SVC. Now, one of the things which you need to notice is that all of these are being uploaded basically into a temporary directory, right? Now, once again, Met-SVC also creates directories which you need to be aware about. So this is the directory which Met-SVC has created now on the victim, where all these 3 different files have been uploaded. Now, the downside is that, let's say when we uninstall Met-SVC, connect to first session and run Met-SVC and go ahead and uninstall it, right? So now it's no longer running as a service. The files unfortunately still remain. Now, because of this, it is very important that you keep track of where these were uploaded and delete it yourself to ensure that from a forensics perspective, nobody can figure out that you used Metasploit, broke into the system, installed a backdoor and all of that, right? I'm not sure why deletion of the files was not included as part of the uninstall script, both for Perseverance as well as for the Met-SVC service, but it is what it is, right? So ensure you delete these by going into the directory and deleting all of them. And if you also want to go ahead and delete them from memory, well, you will have to figure out where the server is currently running. This is the Met-SVC server which is running, and then kill the process as well. I'll leave that as an exercise to you. Should be quite simple to do it, right? So coming back, what are the interesting things we've noticed? Well, with a backdoor, we are pretty much having a lifetime supply of metapredators from the victim. And I think nothing is better than this, is that you actually get a metapredator shell which comes and connects to you, or to whom you can connect to every 10, 15 or 20 seconds or any time for that matter, right? What better way to actually backdoor a machine? Anyway, so I think some interesting changes could be done, like what I proposed, having a network packet trigger, probably an ICMP packet, a ping packet being sent to the host with a particular little signal in it, which actually tells the backdoor that, okay, now bind to the port instead of being bound always. Because one of the things is, if I run an Nmap scan on the remote machine, let's actually do this. What you would run is the victim machine I'm running the Nmap scan on. It's very easy to figure out where Met-SVC is actually running. The default port is 31337, right? And it is very easy to figure out whether the exact same port is running or not. Okay, coming back. So these are the 2 backdoors which ship with Metasploit by default. Now you could also install third-party backdoors and rootkits. Rootkits specifically are used to do much more advanced operations like hiding processes and files, and ensuring that, when somebody types in netstat, probably the network connection which the backdoor is using is not shown, the backdoor being bound to 31337 is not shown, etc. Right? Now, discussing rootkits definitely is beyond the scope of this video series, but I would encourage you to visit rootkit.com. Tons of rootkits, sample code, etc. is there. You'll really have a lot of fun if you actually love getting into the details by going to that website. A specific rootkit which I think most of you might be aware of, and which unfortunately almost all AVs also detect, is Hacker Defender. And a demo of Hacker Defender is available on securitytube.net. So I will not be discussing third-party rootkits and backdoors in this video tutorial. Maybe we can take that up sometime later in scenario-based hacking video series, right? So one more suggestion I think I would have for anybody who would want to write a metapredator script is also to somehow add some functionalities of a rootkit which can go ahead and hide the backdoors which metapredator is creating, right? Awesome. So that's it. We've come to the end of part 12. Hope you enjoyed this session. I am really loving reading all your comments. Please leave more comments behind. I will definitely reply to each and every comment. So please, your comments is what encourages me to make more videos. That's all. Signing off, Vivek. Ramachandran from here. Bye bye.